That is a perfect reminder for everybody. But we are going to be recording today's meeting and putting the video up afterwards. So just so that everybody has that heads up that it's going to be recorded.
Thank you, Erin. I'm sorry about that. I just got excited and wanted to make sure I didn't forget.
I'm gonna give it about another minute because we do still have some people trickling in. All right, just so we keep with time, we are gonna go ahead and get started. So Sophie, if you want to go ahead and go to the agenda slide. All right, so we do have a little bit of a packed agenda today. So we are going to quick go into some CoC business, which has a couple updates related to the pit count, our other programs, CMIS centralized intake, and an upcoming DV training. We're going to have 2 advocacy and policy updates, a youth homelessness update, some information on cold weather shelters, some infectious disease prevention information, as well as some opioid response resources. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next one. So I'm going to start the CoC business and just start us off with a couple of brief slides about the pit count. So anybody who is on the training last week or has seen any of our notifications over the past couple months, all know that the pit is coming up. So the pit, for anybody who isn't aware, is an annual outreach effort and census count of people experiencing homelessness that we do every year. And it provides a snapshot of our homeless response system. It's going to be on the night of January 24th and the morning of January 25th. And there's 3 kind of distinct counts that happen within that, the sheltered count, the unsheltered count, and the service-based count. So if you want to go to the next one. So we have a couple next steps for volunteers. So we are cutting the volunteer sign up off tomorrow, January 18th by the end of the day. So if you have not signed up for the pit yet and you're interested in volunteering and you'd like to be on a team or participate in some way, shape, or form, please fill out your volunteer form by tomorrow. We will be sending out final volunteer assignments on Friday, the 19th, for everybody. So we definitely want to get any last minute signups in before we send the final volunteers out. We do also have a link to the pit waiver there. Waivers are required for all volunteers who participate, and it makes things a lot easier on the night or day of if you guys send those in advance. So if you have not done that already, please go to that link and fill out your waiver and send that on into Sophie. If you're not sure if you've done it already, you can reach out to either of us and we can quick let you know if we have that on file for you or not. But we will be printing out copies for the sites and anything like that on the day of and the evening too, if anybody missed it. Some additional stuff for people who have already signed up, please contact us if you're not able to volunteer anymore. If you have any specific requests or have any questions, we want to try to field all of those between now and tomorrow at the end of the day before the final volunteer assignments go out, so we can make any of those changes or take you off teams and stuff like that before those volunteer teams go out. We also have the volunteer training materials available for everybody who wasn't able to attend the training on Friday or on Thursday of last week. It has a lot of the good information in there, and we recommend that all volunteers review it, even if they are returning volunteer. We have training surveys as well as the videos for the main training and the unsheltered breakout. Unfortunately, due to some of the technical difficulties, we do not have the recordings for the sheltered or the service-based breakouts. But anybody who has specific questions about those or anything like that can reach out to myself or Sophie, and we can answer those as well. And we potentially have some FAQs for some of the questions that were coming from those rooms to put out for everybody in lieu of those missing recordings. But they are available on the webpage, and we will also send them out with the volunteer assignments too. So multiple different ways to access the training materials, and we will also be sending them out. You can move on to so just a quick overview of some of the partnerships that we have for the pit count this year. So we have partnered with DSAM to distribute opioid response kits with the pit care bags this year. They include Narcan sprays and fentanyl testing strips. And with that partnership, we are offering an additional free Narcan distribution certification training for pit volunteers. That training is going to be on the 18th from 3 to 4. It is for pit volunteers only. And our goal is to have at least one member per volunteer team certified to be able to distribute that those kits. So if you have signed up or are going to sign up and are interested in attending that training and need the information, please reach out to Sophie and let her know. And also if you're already certified and you're planning to participate, let us know just so we can keep noted which teams do and don't have somebody who's certified for that. We are also partnering with DPH to have their mobile units at some of our next day sites in all 3 counties on the 25th to provide vaccinations and other services to people experiencing homelessness coming in to receive services that morning. And there's going to be more information about what that those services and stuff are and what sites are available later in some other slides from our partner John Smiley, who's kind of the head of the mobile unit coordination. We are also going to be partnering or are partnering with UD on this year's youth count, but we're going to be working with them to do some additional surveying after the youth count for the pit this year to gain more information on youth homelessness in Delaware. And anybody who is interested in learning more about that additional surveying on how to get involved should reach out to Erin Nescott, who's kind of helped leading that project, and her email is there, and we are also able to connect you on that. And you can go ahead, and that's it for me. I'm gonna pass it over to Amelia for a CMIS update, unless anybody has any questions on that kind of brief overview of the pit information before we move on.
Nope, sounds like I'll take over. Just in case some of you are not familiar with what CMIS is, it is our Community Management Information System, which is Delaware's Homeless Management Information System, which is the federally mandated database on homeless services for CoCs. So I was just asked to give some quick updates on what's going on in the data side of things with the CoC. So Sophie, you can change the slide. The first thing I wanted to do is to give an update on the federal reporting timeline. We're currently in the middle of the federal reporting season, which is when HUD asks for all of the federal reports that they ask for. There are 4 major federal reports that Housing Alliance Delaware submits on behalf of the Delaware Continuum of Care. And I just wanted to give status updates on those. The first is the LSA, which is the Longitudinal Systems Analysis, which looks at the system and programs available in our CoC over the course of 3 years. That report is what HUD's official deadline for the report is January 24th. They did extend it from technically today. for a week. However, Delaware's submission for the LSA has been submitted and is complete. The second report that we are usually working on this time of year is the system performance measures, which are 7 measures to report on what our system is doing to address homelessness. Usually works off of CMIS data as well. However, for a few reasons that I'll explain in the rest of my section of this meeting, we are still waiting for HUD for updates on that. So unfortunately, we do not have any information on the system performance measures that we would usually talk about during this quarterly meeting. So we are waiting for HUD for that. The third report is the point in time count, which Aaron just mentioned is happening next Wednesday night. So Housing Alliance Delaware will work on getting that data into CMIS and submit it to HUD on April 30th, which is the deadline they're shooting for. They have not confirmed that and have that set in stone. As well as the housing inventory count, which would be due on the same day. The point in time count looks at the number of people homeless in our system or our CoC on the night of January 24th. Housing inventory count looks more at what housing services or shelter services are available on the same night. So one report is complete, one we're waiting from HUD on, and 2 we are actively working on right now. Sophie, go ahead. One of the big updates that I think a lot of people who use CMIS who's on this meeting is aware of has to deal with the status of our system. So just so people who don't use it are just aware, we have had some unfortunate delays out of our control relating to CMIS for the past few months. Every other year, HUD does review what data is being collected in CMIS or HMIS systems across the country, and every database that is being used across the country must match the HUD data standards manual that is released to go into effect on October 1st of every other year, and it must be reflected into our HMIS data collection and reporting. So for October 1st of last year, we had a few changes that I've outlined the main ones on the slide. But Sophie, you can go ahead and change the slide. Just the update was that there were some delays, and there are still some delays in rolling out fiscal year 2024 reporting requirements, which has affected our day-to-day implementation of CMIS. So I am publicly apologizing to all CMIS participating agencies. Unfortunately, these are things that have been out of our control for the past few months. HUD is aware of these delays that not only CMIS, but other HMIS implementations around the country have been dealing with. And updates are being made to the reports. But again, the goal was that all these reports should have been available October 1st. Some of these reports have been updated in the last few weeks, but we don't have all of the reports that are required by HUD. An example of that is the system performance measures report, which is why HUD has not set a deadline for that yet. But some of our reports that we use on a day-by-day basis, like the data quality framework, APRs, CAPER, some of you are familiar with those. Those have been fixed the beginning of this month, but we are waiting for a few other important reports that affect some of our programs, which include path reporting and coordinated entry, which is centralized intakes reporting, as well as hopefully ironing out some of the changes for the point in time count and housing inventory count before we submit those to HUD. So just wanted to give those updates on reporting. Thank you for everyone who has been patient over the past few months with us trying to work around us not having the reporting available, but we will continue to give updates with reporting as the system's updated. That's what I have. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Amelia. Next up, we have, well, actually, I apologize. Does anybody have any questions for Amelia too, before we move on to our centralized intake updates? All right, well, Amelia, if anything comes up, I'm sure somebody will reach out, but next up, we have Sherelle with our centralized intake updates. Sherelle, whenever you are all set, just let me know and I can get you started with your slides.
you, Sophie. Good morning, everyone. You can go ahead, Sophie. All right, so I'm just gonna go over some information from our December dashboard. We were contacted, or centralized intake, I'm sorry, was contacted by 1,347 households. That number is deduplicated in the month of December. 33% of those households reported to being unsheltered. So that's about 444 households, which is extremely high. So we continue to be in crisis. Centralized intake is very, very busy. On average, we're taking about 136 calls from households daily. I'm sorry. And Sophie, you can go to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry. 23% of those households reported to being doubled up, 18% reported to be in emergency shelters, 9% in temporary housing, 6% in institutional settings, 6% we weren't able to collect that information, and 5% were housed. So you can see some of the demographics there as well. And then Sophie, you can go to the next slide. All right, some additional updates. Centralized intake will continue to facilitate our quarterly meetings, which we started. The next meeting will be in March of this year. The date and the location will be announced at a later time. However, I can tell you that it will be in Newcastle County this time, since the last two were in Kent County. The goals of the meeting are for intake partnering organizations and homeless service provider staff to network and share information, for centralized intake to receive feedback, and exchange the most up-to-date information regarding centralized intake practices and processes. In our last meeting, we did advise everyone that centralized intake was going to start reporting violations of HUD equal access rules and or discrimination complaints against protected classes to the ESG funders in appropriate jurisdictions. That has started. And I just want to remind everyone that we will continue to do so. And that is all that I have. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself too much. Thank you so much, Sherelle. Does anybody have any questions about anything for her before we move on to our next quick moment of CoC business before moving on to the next of our information? All good. All righty. Thank you again so much, Sherelle. And all this information will be sent out too with all the meeting materials. So if anybody needs to review anything or contact anybody as well, that'll make sure that's all sent out to everyone. The next item we have under CoC business is actually an upcoming training that we have. We are partnering with the Delaware Coalition Against Domestic Violence to offer a domestic violence and victim safety training. It's going to be on March 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. over Zoom. We do have the registration link available. We'll also make sure again to put that out on our website as well with all the materials. This training is going to be required for all CoC funded project staff. And it is also strongly recommended for any ESG funded projects as well. But it is open to all homeless assistance providers. We're going to be reviewing confidentiality for DV clients, how to safely serve survivors in the homeless assistance programs, and the basics of safety planning for those clients. The community resources that are the best suited to meet the needs of those survivors, and then also obligations of HUD housing providers under the VAWA Act. We will be putting out a flyer and more information coming out soon on our CoC events page, so please just keep an eye out for that. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. All righty. And next up, we actually have our advocacy and policy update. We are going to start off with Nick Beard and Tony Sayers-Zega. I'm sorry, Tony, I know I probably got your last name wrong. They are our advocacy and policy committee chairs. And then we are going to hear from Sonia Starr, who is our policy director with Housing Alliance. So if Nick and Tony are on, I'm not sure which one of you guys, if you wanted to tag team or present just one.
I'm sorry, Sophie, Tony was in a meeting, so you are all stuck with me in the meantime. I know, listen, I prefer him too, but you're all stuck with me. So we were really lucky in that we've been able to meet as a committee and really focus in on what our priorities are for the upcoming year. Of course, it's very exciting that there really seems to be this focus on youth homelessness. So examining and creating policy towards youth homelessness is going to be one of our priorities. We also continue to talk about the Homelessness Bill of Rights And if you are sitting here going, wait, that's been a priority for the last few years, it absolutely is and continues to be. So that is something that we are expecting there to continue to be a push for legislation this year, and that we will be working on. In addition, the source of income legislation is always something that we are working on, particularly with the housing authorities. And just as an update for anyone who doesn't know, at the moment, there is no consequences or penalty for discriminating based on source of income, which means that landlords can refuse to even consider anyone who may be using a voucher, who may be using veterans money. So we want to make sure that tenants who are using all sources of income are able to be equally considered. Something else that we continue to celebrate as our big success, it was the big thing that we took off this year, was of course right to representation passing. But since we are not just legislation, we're also policy. As we continue to see how that plays out and what the practical effects are, I think we will be continuing to chat about right to representation. So I'm sorry, everyone, I know it passed, but you're still going to be hearing about it. So those are some of our major priorities for the year. The Advocacy and Policy Committee meets monthly. I have to say, it's always a good time. And so if you are not currently on our listserv, we'd love to have you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Nick. And as a quick update as well, too, just before we move on to Sonia, we have the last year we put out an advocacy agenda that kind of details the different priorities that the CoC is going to be advocating for in the upcoming year. The fiscal year 24 advocacy agenda is currently still being approved and finalized by the CoC board, but once that is all set, we will have that published and sent out and available on our website as well. So please just keep an eye out for that in the next coming week or so as well.
I'll also add that aside from laying out the priorities, the advocacy agenda is kind of what authorizes the Advocacy and Policy Committee to do their activities for the year, for legislative session and for some other advocacy efforts throughout the year. So the board does approve that, and that kind of is the green flag for the committee to go out and do all the great advocating and educating that they do throughout the year. So again, if anybody's interested in learning more about what the CoC's advocacy and policy priorities are, and kind of some of the activities that the committee will be doing this year, we will be sending that out when it's approved by the board.
And Erin, and if anybody is interested in joining our Advocacy and Policy Committee, our next meeting is going to be in March. You can just reach out to me for information or simply just sign up on our CoC membership form if you have not already. All right. And if we don't have any questions for Nick, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Sonia.
Good morning, everybody. It is nice to be with you. Sophie, feel free to go to the first slide, please. We have two upcoming educational opportunities in February. We are in session, but February is all about the JFC budget, which means it's funding. So there tends not to be a lot of housing legislation, although there will be one tentatively February 8th to support DSHA's budget. But it's a good time to do some advocacy as we get ready for all the housing bills that will be coming in March. So on February 12th from 1 to 3, the CoC and I will be partnering to do a workshop on how 501c3s, i.e. nonprofit agency, can do lobbying and under particular ways that support and are legal to their IRS laws and requirements. So I encourage people who want to think about transforming their agency, whether they're a CoC agency, it's open to the public, it could be another nonprofit, into a agency that legally does do lobbying. Please come to this program and pass it on to other people who might be interested. Go ahead to the next slide. As well as on February 26th from 1 to 3, we're going to talk about testimony writing. It is an art form and or extremely difficult to say more than your name and organization in 1 to 2 minutes. And yet that's all we get in Delaware to actually testify. That's not true everywhere, but it is true here. So we have to learn to say the most crucial thing that will catch the delegates' ear and attention in a very short period of time. So we're going to do that on February 26th. We're going to talk about how to do it. And then but it's a workshop, which means there'll be time for you to do breakout rooms as well as time for you to do some writing. If you do the complete session as it's laid out, you will already have a draft for an upcoming bill that we are expecting to be presented in March. So it could be well worth your time and energy. Go ahead to the next slide, please. And Day for Housing, believe it or not, May 9th, 2000. Oh, I mistyped. I apologize. 2024. We're not going back in time. We will. Sophie, can you fix that for me before you mail it out? Thank you so much. I do apologize. As amazing as Day for Housing was in 2023, we are going forward to May 9th, 2024. And last year, for I think the first time, Day for Housing actually had people got transportation were provided for people who did not have access to cars. So one was from a shelter in Georgetown, and the other was for people with needing wheelchair accessibility vans. Unfortunately, the latter cannot do it again this year financially. So, and I'm negotiating with the former. I would love to have transportation for people with lived experience from every single county. That's my goal this year. Unfortunately, we don't have the finances to pay for it, but I would be more than glad to help logistically make it happen. And the reason why that's time sensitive is I'd like to roll out the actual date of when I roll out the May 9th sign up registration. I'd like there to be the information about transportation on that form, so it's totally integrated instead of separated into another experience. So if you have finances that can help us bring people with lived experience to Dover, please, please, please let me know. And the last slide
And Sonia, real
has my
quick, there
contact
was
information if you don't already have it. Sorry, Erin.
there was just a quick question in the chat for the trainings. Just it was asking if the trainings would be via Zoom or in person.
Thank you. Both of the trainings will be virtual. That way everybody in the state can take advantage. And they're both open to the public, so pass them to everybody, anybody interested. Thanks, Erin. Other questions? Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Again, everybody, all this information will make sure to get sent out. Please also keep an eye out too for some of the upcoming events with the Advocacy and Policy Department. Thank you again, Sonia. And everyone too, mark your calendars for May for Housing for this year, 2024. I also should have caught that as well too. Alrighty. Next up, we have our youth homelessness update. We are lucky enough to have Stacy Schamberger here with us. She's with our Lifelines Program Director with West End Neighborhood House. Stacy, if you are all set, just let me know and I will let you take it away.
Yeah, good morning. Hi, everyone. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to be able to speak with you all. I guess just very quick high-level overview conversation about youth homelessness and what we're doing so far, and where everybody can hopefully attempt to kind of get in where they fit in, if you will, and then be a part of everything it is that we're hoping to achieve moving forward. So on youth homelessness, we are focusing in on trying to make sure that the youth definitely have a voice, that the youth are taking part in the conversations that are affecting them and that are actually moving forward every day within our communities. So we started with recognizing that the Youth Homeless Demonstration program that the feds were putting out every single year was something that at this point we haven't been able to take advantage of as a state. Realizing all of the work that actually goes into that, we decided pretty quickly that we were going to go ahead and move forward to at least get some of the work started, the pre-work, if you will. And by doing that, we started our Delaware empowering community, to end youth homelessness. So it was a convening, a rather quick one. Like I said, we did put it together pretty quick. We will be doing more of these, so that way the outreach in the community is more expansive. But we did have one in December. It was actually a pretty good turnout. I think we had over 45 people there, if I remember the count correctly. We also had youth that did take part and were able to not only share, some of their experiences, but to shed some insight in regards to what it is and how it is that we should potentially be moving forward in order to include the youth voice. So it was a really good conversation with some of our community partners that were able to come and make sure that we, as a team, presented that, the information that was out here, right? Like, what does youth homelessness in Delaware look like? Where are we lacking in information? What are some of the gaps that we need to be able to fill? So on and so forth. So it was really good context and, really kind of set the stage for us to be able to move forward just in regards to working to resolve youth homelessness. So we definitely discussed some pretty challenging issues, and we'll continue, to make sure that those discussions continue. We do have some materials that are available on a shared folder, and it looks like Sophie threw a link in there. Thank you. So everybody can access that. So whenever she shares the slides, then you'll be able to access those also. Next slide, please, Sophie. Thank you. Excuse me. Out of the convening that we had, and also moving towards the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program grant. It's a mouthful, so excuse me for speaking slowly to make sure I can get it all out. But we did also now develop our Youth Action Board Development Committee. So that committee meets the second Monday of every month. Normally, we did end up having to reschedule it to the end of this month, just for January. So if you are interested, please reach out, contact me. This board really just allows us to have good conversation around what are the changes that we're looking to make, how are we ensuring that, again, the youth voice is at the forefront, working towards, again, the development for the YHDP grant, who's doing what players we need to have at the table that aren't already at the table, and then developing strategic, partnerships along the way, and making sure that everybody has an invite that wants to be at the table. It's a pretty comprehensive grant that we're going to all be applying for. We have to do it as a state, not as individual agencies. And so we have to come together with our CoC in order to make this happen. So if you are looking for more information, if you're looking to be a part of the development through, the process of this grant, and or, looking to just continue to support the youth, then again, please reach out. You'll also notice over towards our left that we have started to move forward with the actual youth voice. So our very first youth convening is going to be on the 22nd of this month at 2 o'clock. It will be at our agency, so our home base, not West End Neighborhood House, but at home base. The address is at the bottom. So home base is a part of the Lifelines program. We do serve homeless youth. We do serve youth that have been emancipated from foster care. So we have youth in and out of here on a daily basis that are looking to have their needs met. So we figured this would be the great place to at least start the process for those meetings. We are very happy to have in the discussions that day, number one, if the timing is going to remain appropriate, if the date is going to remain appropriate, as in, I think it's the last Monday of the month, or if that is something that's going to change. So the youth are going to be driving that conversation. We'll just be there to support. You all are obviously welcome to come if you want to be what I would like to consider a background participant, because again, this is the youth voice, not ours. So we'll be doing what is going to hopefully be most accommodating to them so that we can start to move this forward. So our Youth Action Board is one of the items that's required in regards to us being prepared to apply for the YHDP grant.
Hey, Stacy, there is a quick question in the chat, from Gwen. Was there a report of the results from the youth homelessness convening in December that we can get? Gwen, feel free to unmute or follow up in the chat. If you could just let us know kind of what, report or results, you're, looking at, because it was kind of just like it was like a get to know you. This are the things that are going on. We want you to get involved. Here's kind of the things that are going on. So if you want to add any insight to that. And if not, we can move on.
Yeah, there, you know, like Erin said, it was really more of an informal kind of get to know you, what we're looking at doing and who the players were in the room. Excuse me, along with getting to know the youth and hear the youth voice. In the folder, you will find that, you know, the PowerPoint is available, which provides different levels of reports. One, of course, from our CoC. We have one from our legal counsel, so Delaware Homeless. I believe, and I'm sure I'm butchering the name, but Delaware Homeless Legal Counsel, I believe, is their title. And Sophie or Erin, correct me if I am wrong about that. And then we also had information from University of Delaware in regards to their upcoming youth camp. So there was not a specific report that came out of the meeting other than what was provided in the slides that you'll have access to.
Thank you.
Which answers your question. Okay. If so, okay, Sophie, we can move forward. I think there's one more slide. Yeah. And then we also have a second committee. So we split it up. Obviously, this is a very large undertaking. So we split it up between the two, which was the Youth Action Board Development Committee and then also the Youth Advocacy Legislation Subcommittee. And so that committee is focusing on what it sounds like, just the legal aspects of what we need to be focusing on in order to make some of these bigger changes. So I know one of the major factors that was discussed in regards to moving the committee forward, or at least one of the options that were on the table, is the fact that Delaware does not have an emancipation law here. So we are starting to look at that. What are some of the options that we need to have in place in order to ensure that we don't just pass the law, but we do our due diligence, right? So what are the other players, again, that need to be at the table? If we just say, I'm throwing out a random number, but if we just say you can emancipate yourself at now 16 years old, what does that look like in regards to housing? What does that look like in regards to renting a car or employment or things like that? So there are a lot of other aspects that need to be taken into consideration, and the Youth Advocacy Legal Subcommittee will be looking at that and more, along with the funding opportunities they're providing and supporting any updates or initiatives that are coming around, and then making sure that we're focusing on items and opportunities, and again, community partnership, because none of this is done alone. So we need to make sure that we have everybody's input, we have everybody's assistance and guidance. So I don't think there's any one party that knows everything, and in order to make this work, we have to come together. So they do meet the first Tuesday of every month, which is from 4 to 5 p.m. All of these meetings are Zoom in regards to the committees, just so we're aware. The next meeting is scheduled for February 6th, and you can reach out to Katie. There it is, the National Homeless Law Center, excuse me. So I know I butchered it in the last one. But Katie will be able to provide you with the link and access to the meetings, along with any other information. I'm not sure if they have a shared folder yet. If they don't, I'm sure that will be in the process also. But please reach out to Katie if you're interested in joining the committee or if you have questions. And I think that's where we're at, unless we have any other questions. I think that's the last slide, Sophie.
I think so too. And Stacy, thank you. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions too for Stacy about the youth homelessness that we're doing, the YAB committee, or anything? Any questions?
I have to keep clearing my throat, and I hate how to present it.
Thank you again so much, Stacy. For everyone's knowledge,
No problem.
I threw this on Stacy a little bit last minute, so she really saved the day coming in to help us out with this. And again, her contact information is if you are interested in joining the Youth Action Board, if you know of any youth that may be interested as well. And then we have Katie's information here if you're interested in working on some of the advocacy and legislative work as regards to youth homelessness. Alrighty. And if we don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next topic, which we are going to be talking a little bit about some of the cold weather shelters that we're offering in Delaware. We actually have Kristen and Rashida with both with Friendship House. They are going to kick us off, and I actually believe that those ladies are going to be sharing their own screen. So I am actually going to stop my screen share. And Kristen or Rashida, whenever you are ready.
Okay, thank you so much. I am sharing my screen. Oh, but I am not starting the beginning of the presentation. Okay, can everyone see this? It's good. Okay, so I am Kristen. I am with Friendship House. Rashida is on the call as well. And we manage Code Purple in Newcastle County. So we are actually in the midst of doing it. We did it last night, and we are doing it again tonight because it has been very cold. So a little bit about our program. We call it when temperatures are below, feels like temperature is below 20 degrees. So we look really at the feels like temperature when we are calling Code Purple, and anything below 20, we usually call it, we'll call it in Wilmington and Newark, and in Middletown, although we haven't seen as much of a need in Middletown this year so far, but we're still encouraging people to reach out to our empowerment center in Middletown if they are in need of services, so we can continue to assess the need. But we will call it when it's below 20 degrees in Wilmington and Newark, and we'll partner with local faith communities. So they'll open up and bring folks in overnight, so that we can make sure that when it's really cold outside, folks that are staying outside and are unsheltered aren't without a roof over their head and heat that night. So if you know anyone, we have an email blast that we will share that we're calling Code Purple, but then we always will post it to our Facebook page. And I'll share more about each location, but if you know anybody who is in need of Code Purple, please have them visit one of our empowerment centers, and I have a link at the end, because that's really the best way to get connected, to know how they'll hear about it and where they need to go and what they need to do to make sure they are registered and shared the location. So in Wilmington, we do registration at our Wilmington Empowerment Center, which is in the Episcopal Church of St. Andrews and Matthews. We call it SAMS for short, and there's the address on Orange Street. We are open weekdays 7 to 3, and then on Sunday mornings we'll open up. And then we also have a staff member in the winter months at First and Central, from about 6 to 9. Depends on the weather. Sometimes we do 5, sometimes we go till 10. It just depends. But somebody is definitely there from 6 to 9. So if we are going to call Code Purple, somebody could visit one of those locations to get registered and learn about information. We do allow walk-ins though, and the location will vary depending on the faith community's availability. So we just ask that people check our Facebook page. We'll post the location, and that way people will make sure that they get to the right place. And we just want to note that space is limited, so we can't have everyone show up, but we will have at least availability for 50 people overnight.
Kristen, I apologize to interrupt. I actually had a quick question in the chat.
Yeah.
One of our Steve was asking if there are Code Purple facilities available for single men in the city of Wilmington, and if so, where would they be?
Yeah. So it's welcome to anyone, Code Purple, men, women. We hope that we don't see any children. We'd probably find them another location if they did show up. But yes, single men, couples, or single women, anyone is welcome at our Code Purple location, any age, and any like availability, like they could have a walker, they can have a wheelchair, we can accommodate anyone at these locations. Okay. So then in Newark, very similar, our Newark Empowerment Center is the place to go to get resources. This is in the Newark United Methodist Church. And this address is actually the back entrance of the church. So we tend to not use the address on Main Street. It's preferred to use the back entrance where the parking lot is. But we're only open afternoons, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4. Somebody can register. And we do not publicly post the location of our Newark Empowerment or of our Newark Code Purple. And that's just because space is limited. But you can always call that phone number if you need assistance and if you're not able to get to pre-registration during that time. So we are able to kind of register you over the phone. So that phone number is a great contact. And we, again, share all this information when we post about it on Facebook. So don't feel like you need to write it down. You can find it on our website or on our Facebook. And then in Middletown, as I had mentioned, we haven't hosted one yet, just because the need isn't really showing. But we encourage people that would need it in the Middletown area to please visit our MOT Empowerment Center and check in with our case manager and let them know that you would benefit from it, because then we can make a plan if we need to call it there as well. We are equipped and able to if we needed to. And then if anyone has any questions, they're always welcome to call one of our empowerment centers. They'll know if we had called it for that night or information to get somebody connected. And all of those locations and phone numbers and the hours that they're opened are at our website, friendshiphousedE.org. And as always, we need volunteers. So if anybody is interested in volunteering, we specifically always need volunteers for the overnight shifts so that our staff member is not alone. So that's not always fun, but sometimes it is somebody's favorite volunteer opportunity. And we'll also have volunteers that help with serving dinner, because we do dinner for them. So you can reach out to volunteer at friendshiphousedE.org. So that's a little bit about Code Purple in Newcastle County. Are there any questions for us? Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Oh, Kristen, I apologize. It looks like we have Giovanni actually just raised his hand, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
The question.
Hey, thank you so much, Chris, and I'm excited to follow you up because I oversee Code Purple in Sussex County. So, but my
Wonderful.
question, because we function a little bit differently, is what temperature? So, I know that you only do Code Purple, but when it's below a certain temperature, how do you determine that? Like, and how do you communicate? Like, you have staff, correct?
Yeah, so we call it when temperatures feel like below 20 degrees. So we use AccuWeather. We monitor it pretty much daily. Rashida and I look at it all the time. And then we have a staff member at Code Purple the whole time. So there's always at least one Friendship House employee throughout the whole time during Code Purple. But then we utilize a lot of volunteers to help make up the rest of it.
Gotcha. And then you go by town, correct?
We go by town. Is that what you said? Town?
Yeah, by town, like
Yeah.
the temperature for each town.
Yes. It's rare that we see it in one location, but not another. That hasn't happened yet. But we would go by area, yes. So if we needed to call it in Wilmington, but not Newark, we would make that adjustment. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I will stop sharing. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you so much too for helping us out. I know that Code Purple is something that a lot of people use, a lot of the clients that a lot of these people, a lot of our service providers serve. So thank you again so much. And just for the sake, so I'm not sharing and then hopping back and off, I'm gonna go ahead and let Gio present about Sussex Code Purple with, Love Inc. Mid Delmarva, and then I will then go ahead back to sharing my screen and cover Kent, and we will continue through the rest of the presentation. Thank you so much, Gio.
Sorry, it changes the layout when you share your screen. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
So just for those of you that don't know, Love Inc. is the organization that oversees Code Purple in Sussex County. So for those that aren't familiar with Love Inc., this is basically what we do. We help churches help people. And we just kind of are a coordinating middle entity between the churches who want to help and the people who need the help. All right. And these are just some of the services that we provide. Connection centers where all the calls come in, Gap Ministries, food, clothing, any immediate physical need that people might need is considered Gap Ministry. And then transformational ministry, there's a missing one here, which is case management, which is a bridge between the connection center. So connection's a big like call center. There's case management for people who want to put that extra effort. And then transformational ministries, which would be classes and, mentors and people who want to be paired, with someone because they see that the desire to change. And we believe that it takes a village. So anyway, one of those things that we help with, so I oversee all of the ministries, including case management, with the exception of transformational ministries. There's a transformational ministries director. So my name is Giovanni Otero. I'm the neighbor engagement director, and then I also oversee and the manager for Code Purple. So for Code Purple in Sussex County, there's 7 locations. So it's since you already have a framework for how Kent County does it, I'm gonna talk a little bit about how we differ from from their county. So for example, we start on December 1st through March 15th, and we do every night regardless of the temperature. Okay. So regardless of the temperature, every night from December 1st through March 15th, we are open at each of these 7 sites. So if you go to our website, there's the addresses, the check-in times, if it's women only, if it's men only, etc. And so these are the addresses and times. There's 2 ways to get in touch with us. One of them is the connection center number, which is right here at the top of the website during the week. And evenings and weekends, you can call the Code Purple line for Sussex County, which is right here as well. The reason I'm using the website is because if ever you have a question, if ever somebody calls you and says, I need a place to stay tonight, the best place to send them is the website. The only way we wouldn't be open at one of these 7 locations is if we don't have volunteer assigned for the overnight, which again, you could follow our Facebook page for that as well. And that we're very similar to Kent County. If we had to close a shelter for the night, we would notify it through our Facebook page. And calling some of the other organizations that we partner with in that town so that they can spread the word, because we have a lot of organizations that serve the same demographic. And so that way we can communicate that. Our locations from December 1st through March 15th, were hosted by churches, and it's strictly volunteer based. There's no staff. So we do a lot of the coordinating with churches in each of these towns. So people can sign up to volunteer on the website as well. So this is where they would sign up. They would have to go to our volunteer tab, which you can see here. It'll have them fill out their information so they can go through a background check. And then after that, concurrently, they can select a location which they want to volunteer for. Okay, it's pretty easy. When you click on any one of these, it'll pull up like a little calendar, or you can have it be a list, and you can see what spots are open to volunteer. Now, if it is a guest who wants to stay at one of our sites, this is where they click. All right. And just to give you an idea, you can fill this out on behalf of other people. So you don't have to, like, if they're tech savvy enough where they're comfortable with technology and, you know, you could use this on your phone. A lot of them have filled it out on their own phones. Or they have a family member or a friend who will facilitate. And at the end, there's like, you know, facilitated by line, and you just put your initials in there. But basically, we ask for certain information: full name, phone number, date of birth, email, emergency contact, just information that will be helpful for us to know. Later on, there's if you work, because doors close at a certain time, we're not open. Like, people can't just walk in at any point during the night. Once doors close, the only way you can get into one of our shelters is if you've indicated that you'll be a late arrival. Okay. And some people do arrive late because of work and other circumstances. However, when you fill this out, that does not place your reservation. This is just a one-time thing that people need to fill out. They could even fill it out when they get there to the location if they're not a late arriver. But what does place the reservation, and this is really key, and I want you to remember this, is they have to send a text to this Code Purple number. Okay. This phone right here in my pocket, which has been ringing, it rings off all day. Okay. So the best way is to send me a text, because I can have multiple text conversations. And if I get an incoming call, I'll auto reply with a text. If it's a landline, then I'll call back, because obviously they can't do it. It's not that I can't, but I can only talk to one person on the phone at the same time, but I can have multiple text conversations at the same time. So other than that, this is how they would pre-register. Reservation would be via phone. And then they would have to ask if there is space. For all of these 7 locations, we can only take up to 14 individuals. Okay. So they would have to ask, hey, is there space at your Milford Women's Shelter? And I could look at last night's, you know, sign-in sheet, how many people are there, how many people are returning tonight or the next day. And then I would be able to tell them if we have space or not. Other than that, we're always looking for volunteers. So if you're interested and you're in Sussex County, I'm just gonna drop 2 links. This first one is where to get my contact info. And then the second link is our Code Purple website, so that you can either refer people to, if you want to bookmark this tab, this link on your web browser, so that when people call, you can just send it to them. You could do that. For women and children, that's a good question. I saw the question in the chat. There's one location in particular, this one here, Milford Nazarene, Church of Nazarene. They will take children if they are with the mother, but that is the only location that we have at the moment that will take children. They won't take unaccompanied children. I got a call last night from a 16-year-old, and we weren't able to, you know, kind of meet that need. So that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask earlier for the youth homelessness group. If you have any resources, to let me know. But anyway, in Sussex County, these are the locations. This is where you can volunteer. This is where people can pre-register. And remember, they fill that out. After they fill this out, you have to text this number so that people can find out if there's space or not. All right. I think that is it for me. If there's any questions, please let me know. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll send you an email.
Perfect. And we'll
Actually, if
make
you click that link above, you'll have my email in it. It has my email, cell phone, everything. It'll pull up my page. You'll see it.
And we'll make sure to include those links as well when we send out all the meeting materials too. Yeah, if anybody else has any questions for GO2 about anything for Love Inc. Code Purple in Sussex, And if not, I will go ahead and start on Kent County.
I will make one plug for the pit. We are still looking to fill out our pit volunteer surveys teams for the Code Purple sites. We are looking for 1, 2, 3, about 5 more people for there to be 2 volunteers per site. So again, if anybody's interested in helping out with that, please either email me or fill out that volunteer form by tomorrow afternoon so we can get you on a team.
So thanks for letting me present.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for helping us out. Alrighty, I'm gonna go right back to sharing my screen and hopping back into the cold weather shelters. Alrighty. So Kent County Code Purple is operating at 2 different sites. For the Marantha Life Changing Church, this is the best contact number. This is their website here where you can get more information, and that is the best email to reach out for general inquiries or to inquire about assistance. I would recommend calling the number if you if a client is in need of shelter and wants to get a immediate response. This is the address. They are also open and have been running since November 24th and will continue to be open until April 1st, 2024. This location is women and children only. There is no pre-registration required. Clients may arrive at 5 o'clock for dinner. There is a shuttle available that will pick people up at the Dover Library around 5 p.m. And then there is also a drop-off shuttle service at 8 a.m. at the Dover Library and BCCS Hopes and Dreams, and that is for the morning. There are also bilingual services offered here, so if you have any clients that are not native English speaking, this is also a really great resource as far as temporary shelter in Kent County as well. The next location is the People's Church of Dover. This is the best phone number for them. This is their website and this is their email address as well. Again, I recommend just calling the number if you are in need of shelter versus email. I would assume would be more so like general inquiries or information. This is their address here. They have been opened since December 1st and they are going to be running until March 31st of this upcoming year, this year. We're in 2024 already. This is also, again, for men only. No pre-registration required. They have dinner available at 5:30. And they are operating off of just the first 50 men that arrive and register. I'm assuming registering at the site would have a bed available for that evening, and you cannot arrive at that site any later than 9 p.m. So this is the information that I have for Kent County. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. And if not, I will go ahead and get started on our next section. Alrighty, so we are actually going to be hearing from 2 different people today with Delaware Public Health. First off, we have Molly Dworkin. She's a preparedness epidemiologist, and she's going to be talking a little bit about infectious disease prevention among people experiencing homelessness in an unsheltered setting. And then we're also going to be hearing a little bit from John Smiley. He is with Delaware Public Health, and he's going to be helping spearhead our mobile unit initiative that we're going to be doing during the pit count. But Molly, I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share so that you should be able to go ahead and get started. Oh, Molly, I know you're not muted, but for some reason I can't hear you on my end. I don't know if that's maybe just me. Molly, I'm sorry, I still can't hear you. If you need to hop off and hop back in too, I can keep an eye out to let you in, whatever's easier. I know sometimes it's my audio settings on my computer too. While you're taking a second to get that figured out, Gio also just put in some information in the chat as well too about the Sussex County. They can take walk-in if there are no shows as well. So it does seem like, again, if there's somebody that doesn't show up to that site, you can always act as a walk-in again for the Code Purple Sussex sites as well. Alrighty. And while we give Molly a few minutes to get situated, actually, John, if you don't mind, if you're on now, we can let you go ahead and we'll have you maybe go first while we're letting Molly figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
Awesome. Alrighty, and if you need to, you should be able to go ahead and share your screen as well.
Okay. All right, can everybody hear me good? Coming through, all right?
Yep, all good on
All
my
right.
end.
All right, my name is John Smiley. I'm a planner for Newcastle County Health Services. This presentation is mainly kind of geared towards Newcastle County, but we do have community health units in all 3 counties, one in each. And Kent and Sussex are a little bit bigger in length than ours, just because we needed the ability to navigate through the city. Ours is a little shorter. All right. So the mobile units were originally deployed during the COVID-19 pandemic to help bring clinical services to people that may not have the ability to make it to the clinics. They were originally staffed and operated with the help of the Delaware National Guard, and they were primarily focused on COVID vaccinations and COVID testing. In the summer of 2022, services were added and locations increased to reduce barriers related to access of care in vulnerable populations. More services were added this past fall to increase service lines, and we'll cover that in just a second. So here's a list of our current services. We have COVID and flu vaccinations, COVID at-home test kits, rapid HIV testing and counseling, blood lead screenings, diabetes screenings and blood pressure readings, cholesterol testing, and diabetes and heart disease prevention and control program referrals. We also have a ton of outreach and education packets from different community-based organizations in Newcastle County that we stock our tables with and we have on our mobile units at all times. So we have some stuff from Interfaith, Westside has given us some stuff, and we have a ton of other stuff. On the left-hand side, you can see an example of our flyer. This is the most up-to-date version. We send this out to over 40 recipients and they disseminate them from there. So they go out to a ton of people all over the state. And they are also posted on Quality Insights social media pages. We're eventually getting to that. We will eventually have a QR code. So it will go to one link for the whole count or for the whole state. We are currently working on expanding our list of community-based organizations, and this is kind of where all of you play in. At the end of this, you will see my contact information. If you are a part of an organization or know of people who may be interested in hosting our mobile unit for an event, please reach out. On the right-hand side here, we have a few events that we regularly attend, which are the Wilmington Police Department, Department of Justice, which we just started those events in all 3 counties, Rose Hill Community Center, Latin American Community Center, Goodwill of Delaware, and we just started a collaboration with Victory Christian Fellowship. The mobile unit is comprised of about 5 to 6 staff members per event, a driver, 2 nurses, and 2 health program coordinators. If you need a service that we do not currently offer on the mobile unit, but we may have at one of our clinics, health program coordinators are certified in community health worker training to refer you to a clinic that may be able to help you. We're about to cover the PIT events. In Newcastle County, we will be at St. Patrick's Center on January 25th from 9 to 12. The address is 107 East 14th Street in Wilmington, and we will be there at 8:30 to set up. We will offer all of our services. The only caveat we may have is that early on in our events, if it is super cold out, it might take us a little to get the temperature to do our HIV test, lead test, and cholesterol testing. So if anyone is interested in that, they may have to wait a little bit if they show up right when we get there. In Kent County, this event is still pending approval, but this is where we are planning to attend. We're waiting for approval, which we'll hopefully have sometime today or the end of this week, and then this will be updated as soon as we get confirmation, so this can be sent out to whoever may need it. In Sussex County, we'll be at Higher Ground Outreach on the 25th from 11 to 2. The address is 12 East Pine Street in Georgetown, and we'll be there at 10:30 to begin setup. Same thing as Newcastle County. Right out of the gate, some of our services may have to wait till the mobile unit gets up to temperature, especially with it getting super cold out right now. We can only do those testings inside the mobile unit.
And John, just to quick go over the chat, Hopes and Dreams Brandywine Counseling in Kent was approved right before the meeting. So that is a definite and thank you to Shelby from Brandywine for helping facilitate that.
Awesome, thank you. I'll make sure that gets updated before I send this out to you guys. So to get back to it, if you're interested in organizing an event in Newcastle County, you can reach out to me. Email is the best way. When I send this out, I'll put my office phone number in here as well. And same for my counterpart in Kent and Sussex, Akima. I'll put her phone number as well. But email is the best way to reach out to us. We get a lot of people asking for events, and phone calls are a little bit more difficult for us to keep track of. So email is the best way to contact us. And I would just like to thank Sophie and Aaron for the opportunity and the communication to get us involved in this call, and their continued support. Our team is looking forward to hopefully working with some of you guys or connections that you may have. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
And thanks, John. We did have one last question before you go. Is there any way you can provide weekly or monthly outreach dates? Or is there a place to go to find the schedule for the events for people who are interested?
Yeah, so Quality Insights, I think, is the only place right now that has like our weekly flyers. But if anyone is interested in receiving them, just email me your email contact information and name, and I'll get you added to our list. It's a growing list. It grows all the time. It originally started out with only about 10 people, and now we're up to, I think, 45 now. So if you are interested, reach out and I can get those to you guys. And if there's any cancellations for events, we also email that distribution list and notify them of cancellations in any of the 3 counties. And we do flyers currently right now weekly. We are gearing up to do monthly. We just need to make a couple changes now that we are all under one clinic manager. So that is on the way, just not here yet.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Stop sharing my screen, correct?
Oh, yep, you're all good.
Okay.
Thank you again so much, John. And again, just to recap, we will be having the mobile units at Newcastle County for St. Patrick's in Newcastle, at BCCS Hopes and Dreams in Kent, and then Higher Ground in Sussex the day after the pit. So if you know any clients that are in need of any of those services that they are offering, please have them go to visit those next day sites in their appropriate county. And Molly, if you are all set, crossing my fingers your audio works, I will let you go ahead and get started.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Thank you for having me speak today. It's actually been very enlightening being on this call, so thanks for having me. I was asked to speak a little about infectious disease prevention in shelters, but also for unsheltered populations. And I provided some health resources. I have some stuff in there about our clinics, and I won't spend too much time on it since John did already discuss some of that stuff. So again, my name is Molly Dworkin. I am an epidemiologist with the EMS and preparedness section of public health. I'm located up in Smyrna, and my email is on this slide. I'll send them to you, Sophie, so you can distribute with your other materials as well. And I apologize in advance. Some of my slides are wordy, but I was hoping you could use them as a resource after the presentation. So infectious disease prevention is important in those experiencing homelessness because they are at increased risk for contracting some of these illnesses such as COVID, which we've seen over the last few years. Other respiratory illnesses, we're in the midst of flu season. We still have RSV out there, and other illnesses that homeless are increased risk for include norovirus, Shigella, and other gastrointestinal illnesses. Also, hepatitis, viral hepatitis such as A and C, tuberculosis. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about that in a few moments. HIV and other STIs, pneumonia, group A streptococcus infections, which include strep throat, scarlet fever, cellulitis, and there are others, and numerous types of illnesses that cause rashes, or there's also, things like psoriasis that are not infectious. Some, excuse me, guidance for the unsheltered population, some guidance that is out there available on the internet, which I've included links to in this presentation. If possible, increasing the availability of hand washing sinks, especially near encampments. I know that was something that was done during COVID. I think by John's group, I think you guys did a lot of that stuff. So good on you guys. Increasing accessibility of public restrooms is very important, especially keeping them clean. So that's one thing that can be difficult, is making sure that there are sanitation services on a regular schedule, and then also cleaning, trash removal, pest control is important. In the last couple of years, we've been seeing increase in illnesses that are caused by mosquito bites. So, even spraying for mosquitoes is a good way to help control diseases that are affecting our populations. And hazardous waste removal is very important, just because things like needles can pose, a very strong threat, not only to the people living in encampments and such, but people who are servicing those areas. And then wherever possible, if the unsheltered individuals can try to set up their areas in a 12 by 12 feet space per individual. I know that can be difficult, but that'll at least provide some physical distancing from other people who may be ill. Another few things that can be done is distributing educational materials at shelters or other places where people who are experiencing homeless are kind of spending some of their time. Educational resources about personal and sexual hygiene, because there are some illnesses that are, not everybody knows they can be spread in, basically like an STI, like something like Shigella, where you might get infected from consuming like contaminated food. This next bullet is kind of important for everybody. Hand washing behavior, posting signs about how to properly wash your hands is very important. Because things like norovirus are very contagious, but the virus itself is resistant against things like hand sanitizer, which is a big, a tool that we use where hand washing is not an option, but something like norovirus is not easily destroyed by hand sanitizer. And then when it comes to food safety and water safety, if even though the volunteers are doing all this great work, just make sure they're not coming to the shelter and performing food and water services if they are sick. And then I have a link on here where we have all of our DPH, Division of Public Health fact sheets. If you're interested in specific illnesses, you can go on there and print things out, publish them in your shelters or other facilities. Some ideas to help with managing respiratory illnesses are, we did this a lot during COVID. I know a lot of shelters that I've been to, they do have an intake process. So looking at fevers, what kind of symptoms people are having. So at the shelters, if your staff and volunteers and residents can stay up to date with vaccinations, that's a great way to protect yourselves. This isn't always possible, but improving ventilation in areas where people are going to be hanging out a lot, opening window, not this time of year, not going to want to open windows, but when it's a little warmer, moving things outside when possible, testing when needed, when people have symptoms of illness, masking is appropriate. Right now, it would be recommended in Kent and Sussex County to mask just based on the COVID community levels. We're in the yellow, which means that our hospitalizations are for COVID are up a little bit right now. We also have a lot of flu cases going around, so mask is really going to help protect against a lot of these illnesses that are circulating currently. Here's some guidance on cleaning and disinfection at facilities. So it tells you, you know, if you have a resident that's sick, how often should you clean and what kind of disinfection processes and techniques. So you can go on there and take a look if you need some help with that. And then another thing, if possible, isolating somebody who is having symptoms and cohorting, which means putting people with the same illnesses together away from other people who are not experiencing any symptoms of illness. And physical distancing are some of the best ways that we can prevent the spread of illnesses. These are some of the common ones, like I said, COVID and flu and RSV are kind of the big ones right now. There's been a recent spike globally in bacterial pneumonia, so I put that on here if you're interested in looking at those symptoms and prevention techniques. Gastrointestinal illnesses are they're just always a beast to deal with. But some of the things that can be done are vaccination, especially for hepatitis A, maintaining hand hygiene, encouraging sick people to modify sexual activity, cleaning and disinfection, food and water safety, as I described. Try not to have anybody who's appears to have any symptoms of illness preparing food or water. Again, cohorting. Norovirus is probably one of the most common things that causes like what we call stomach flu, which you feel really bad for, you know, a day or two and then start to get better. Hepatitis A is a little different. It can take several weeks for symptoms to start to appear after an exposure. Shigella, like I said earlier, is a GI illness that can be passed on by sexual activity. So that that's something that if it is present in the population, to kind of encourage that sexual hygiene. And then when it comes to food poisoning, if there's suspicion that food or even water supply is causing the gastrointestinal illness, please call the DPH Office of Food Protection at this number. They can do an investigation and see what's going on if it's, you know, an organized establishment. And next thing is rashes, things like that are most commonly spread among people who are experiencing homelessness or scabies, lice, cellulitis, and ringworm. And the best way to manage those illnesses is by avoiding or minimizing skin-to-skin contact, exposure to bedding, clothing, or hygiene tools that somebody who has symptoms was using, and then cleaning their supplies or their laundry cycle, or cleaning like hair products, hair like combs and stuff in hot water above 130 degrees Fahrenheit, or sealing in a plastic bag for 2 weeks. That'll allow those bugs to kind of seal off, die off, and then keep it moving. And one thing that's very important is keeping skin clean and dry. The moisture is what's going to cause things like ringworm and other fungal infections. And I just wanted to include this, that there are state service centers at each site. So this is where people are going to go for social services as well as public health services. We provide testing and different things at the different clinics, which I'll go into the next slide. So just want to briefly mention that there are children services at the clinics, and Generally, that's for people who are underinsured or don't have insurance at all, and children can get immunizations and physicals. Typically, they're free or low cost depending on the household income. And here's where you can find some child health services. I would definitely call ahead, just because it's a busy time of year as well. Other services for adults, you can also find on our DPH website. So there's family planning services. I won't talk too much about this stuff because John and his group are doing a lot of immunizations, which is one of our most important tools right now for some of the things that are going on. HIV services, those with HIV are susceptible to getting other illnesses, so it's important to manage that HIV. And then we also have Screening for Life and these other things, and STI testing again, and tuberculosis. I wanted to mention just a moment. Besides our clinics, there are other community health centers or federally qualified health centers and lookalikes that provide free or low cost services. So I put those websites in there. There's many different places throughout the state that do provide services. And in addition to the DPH mobile clinic, a lot of our big hospitals also have mobile clinics like Bay Health, Christiana Care. They'll have kind of standing appointments at some locations throughout the state, which I pulled from their website. This might be a good opportunity to kind of work with them to address our people experiencing homelessness and getting them care. In addition to our DPH clinics, Tidal Health, BB, they also have clinics, and they had information on there about how to request those services. Also Nemours, which would, be for children. And then another one is there's a University of Delaware partnership where they have their students go in and assist with providing different types of screenings. Like, for example, this one's blood pressure. They might have other things, testing or vaccinations potentially. I don't know too much about it, but here's the website. And if you guys are interested in working with them, I'm sure they'd be very happy to do that. I included the vaccination schedules because this one is, I think this one's children one. Yeah, this one's for children. During COVID, a lot of children got off their vaccination schedule. So there's a lot of susceptibility to illnesses that we thought were pretty much not a problem. If you've been seeing the news, there's been measles exposures and cases in the area. We recently had an exposure at Nemours, and fortunately, knock on wood, there has not been a secondary case in Delaware. So Delaware's still sitting at 0 for measles, but I just wanted to put the schedule out there because a lot of people, because of all of everything involving COVID, have gotten off schedule. And here's the schedule for adults. I'm just gonna hurry up because I think I'm taking too long, but here's how you can sign up to get some HIV screening. These are the clinics that'll offer those services, and this is our website for case management. And I wanted to mention tuberculosis. People experiencing homelessness are at risk for tuberculosis, which is a nasty disease, and it can take a while to receive treatment. Compliance with that treatment can be difficult, especially when people are worried about just having somewhere warm to stay at night. But I want to mention tuberculosis because we have a lot of immigrants coming from countries where tuberculosis is common. So I did include some information on that because it is something that I encourage shelter managers and those who work with people experiencing homelessness to watch out for. And then if you do work at a shelter and you have a concern about a cluster of an illness, please feel free to report that to us at DPH so we can perform an investigation. Some of the things that we would want to know are the symptoms, that person's name, their date of birth, contact information, were they in the hospital, those sorts of things. And we have, you know, a little bit different information depending on if it's like a respiratory illness, which is this top one, or the this bottom set is for gastrointestinal illnesses. I can include spreadsheets if people are interested in that. I'll send that to you, Sophie, along with my slides. And then the last few slides, I'm almost done. Just some resources that the community might find helpful. So this first thing is the Office of Infectious Disease Epidemiology. That's the group that does the investigations when there is an outbreak. And that's the contact information during business hours and emergency after hours. Also, My Healthy Communities, where we post a lot of our infectious disease and other data that is relevant to the community. We had a DHSS page for resources for those experiencing homelessness. Obviously, we all know mental health and addiction is a big part of the community, so I wanted to include the resources here. And then there's bridge centers where people can get assistance with substance use, so I won't spend much time on that. And then just a couple other toolkits and publications that can be used by shelter managers. And if you have any questions, again, my email is on this very first slide, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly. That was a lot of that was a lot of information, but I feel like you blew through it in the best way. That was really, really helpful. And I honestly, I learned so much too. I did not know there were that many mobile health units in Delaware, which is actually really, really awesome to hear. So it seems like no matter where you are in Delaware, you can hopefully have one of those sites come out to help out and maybe to come to some of the clients too. So if anybody has any quick questions, we're actually doing great on time too. Oh, we do have a question right here in the chat as well. Steve said he apologizes if he misses this, but he had to step away. But given that injection drug use is common in unsheltered locations, isn't a vehicle for infection, is there any practical harm reduction measures for this?
Yeah, so I didn't offer a whole lot on that, but I think one of the most important things is getting those sharps cleaned up regularly. If there's a way to maybe contract with a company, I don't have any suggestions on that. I can look into it, but regular cleaning and waste removal is going to be effective.
Thank you, Molly. And actually, we are going to be talking a little bit more about substance use, and actually, it's a perfect segue. If nobody has any other questions for Molly, again, we will make sure to have all of her information in the slides sent out too. So if anybody has anything, thinks of anything else, go ahead and you can get in contact with her. But we are going to, if everyone is all set, we're going to go ahead and move on to actually some of our information about Narcan, actually, some resources that we have to some of our service providers too. So this is going to be talking a little bit more about the substance use aspect of Delaware's health as well. And Valerie, if you are all set, I am ready whenever you are to get you going.
Sounds great. This is the first time I'm here. I'm Valerie Davis Marcosi. I am from the DOC, from the Healthcare Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services that we have here. I provide on-the-spot training to several spots. I do it currently at the probation and parole sites across Delaware. I do them all. Georgetown, Seaford, Dover, Harris Corner, and Cherry Lane. I was invited here to see if anybody would be interested for me to come and do on-the-spot training. This is not train the trainer though. Not like that, not like what was stated earlier from Aaron. This would be just lay people. It's the same kits that will be offered at that training. It has the the 2 Narcan sprays, nasal sprays available in the kits, and a mouth guard if CPR is needed. Or a lot of people are not comfortable with it, and I totally understand that. With doing CPR to somebody that is a complete stranger. I do a lot of this for the offenders that come in to probation and parole, and I offer it to them. And if anybody's interested, I can always come. I do have my DOC naloxone email available, and it comes right to me. I try and check it once a week, so it might be a little stagnant, not always responsive because it comes to a separate email that I have. But I'm always available. I just need to, I don't want to say always because I'm at probation and parole every Wednesday. Like today I'm going to Dover. But I could always set up something and come and offer Narcan to lay people. I do see somebody with a question.
I was gonna say, yep, I think it's Shelby raised her hand. Shelby, if you just want to go ahead and you can feel free to unmute yourself too and just go ahead and
awesome, thank you. My name is Shelby. I'm a program manager of Brandywine Wine Counseling, and I help oversee 2 of our drop-in centers. And we've been seeing like an increased amount of overdoses with xylazine. So is this something you could actually come in and educate our clients on so they can be able to do this out in their encampments if they need to?
I can give them their own kits. It's normally for their personal use, but they can't train other people to give that to them, but they can have it for themselves.
Yeah.
But
And then you
xylazine
would just
is
be
not
able
an
to show them
opioid.
how to use it.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I know it's not an opioid, but it's sometimes mixed with it. So I know it's difficult, but we're trying to just get them as prepared as we can. But I was just wondering if you would be able to come in and just show the clients who don't know how to use Narcan, how to use Narcan if they're interested.
I can absolutely just send me an email and I can figure out what days are good for both of us. I know this isn't my only responsibility for DOC. So like Thursdays I have a mandatory meetings and Wednesdays I do P&P. But I know there's after hours I can always flex my schedule. I'm very flexible.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I'll reach out to you.
No problem. The next slide is just what is offered in the kits again. I do have the instructions and also the 5 things that I always have to say to people before I give that to them. You know, how to identify and call 911. Everybody knows the whole spiel. These printouts were given to me by DOC help. I'm sorry. Help is here by DHSS. I do print them out and I put them in the rescue kits for them. But again, if anybody has any questions or they would like me to come participate in any kind of community services that you have, just give me a date and I can try and figure out my schedule. I have no problem. And it depends on the location also. I always need permission. If it's not a probation and parole site, I'll just need permission from my chief, which I don't think he has a problem with it. I've already talked to him about this interaction and this meeting that I was a part of. I just need to tell him the day and the location.
Thank you, Valerie, so much too. So again, I do apologize because it's actually really nice that we have Valerie. You would be providing, again, just to clarify, you are the one that would be actually going out to show clients how to use Narcan on themselves if they were ever in need of an emergency, correct?
Normally it's not on yourself because you can't give yourself medication if you're passed out.
No,
it's normally for in case they find somebody that is unresponsive.
For providers, it would be more so for like the average, like the lay person, you know, if you ever in the presence of somebody who's overdosing, how to safely administer Narcan to that person.
Yes. And I always emphasize that you have to be in a safe environment. Just like when they tell you on a plane, you have to help yourself before you help other people. Make sure that you're safe first.
Thank you so much. And again, if anybody has any questions too, feel free just to go ahead. I can't really see the chat the way my screen is set up, but feel free to raise your hand or just hop off mute. And again, we'll make sure that all this information, including Valerie's contact info, is sent out with the material. So if you are interested in having her come out to train or to go over how to use Narcan for any of your clients too, just please feel free to reach out to her as well. But does anybody have any questions for Valerie before we move on to our next presentation? Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So that was a cool. I did not do that. That was a fancy transition there. Next up, we actually have Amos. He is also with DPH. So while Valerie is the one that is able to offer the training for the layperson, Amos is actually able to more so offer the training to like the staff or provider that would then again be administering Narcan as needed. But Amos, whenever you are ready, just let me know and I will let you go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. But Miss Valerie basically said it. So we are the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. We do the Narcan training, whether it's for the community or in partnership with agencies and organizations that are interested in having Narcan. And you know, she basically, I wasn't familiar with their kits, but our kit is similar. It's pretty much the same thing. We do have the nasal sprays inside of the kits, but we also carry, if we're doing trainings out with the public, we do have the fentanyl testing strips and the xylazine testing strips, also information in there for treatment and the face shield as well. And all of that is covered in the training. You can just go to the next slide for me, please. So yeah, so as far as the training, we do have two types of training. Trainings we do have, we have a classroom style training, which is an hour long. It's a presentation. It's really in detail. It's my favorite one because when we do the 5-minute training, I always find myself going above 5 minutes because it's so much information that I just, if you let me talk, I'm gonna talk all day. So if you are somebody who's interested in doing the trainings, and I think the next slide has our flyer that has our dates for our standing trainings all throughout the, oh no, it does not. It does not have that. I think that's the next one. I think that's a cool transition. There you go. There you go right here. So we do have standing trainings all throughout the state of Delaware. And we are everywhere. But we're not limited to these trainings. If you are interested in getting trainings, whether it's for your organization or, you know, for a church or for yourself or whatever, you can either do those, arrive at these training sites. You can log on and sign up for it on the Help Is Here website. But I always tell people, if you are not, you know, tech savvy, if you're not computer savvy, which is completely fine, you can just show up. I'm not going to turn you down or anything like that. But we also do have different types of trainings. You can also contact the Narcan mailbox. I think the email is in the next slide. If there's the next slide. Yeah. Yep, we do have the Narcan.train mailbox, or the number you can just call and set up the training with us. And we will get all of that done. Now, another important thing that Sophie alluded to was the fact that we do partner up with agencies. And I would say that is that's been my main goal for the past couple of months is connecting with organizations and agencies all throughout the state, because we can't do this alone, right? The opioid epidemic in the state of Delaware is really a problem, and it's not really slowing down. So we need everybody, because this does affect everybody. We need everybody to be on board, whether it's with me or with Ms. Valerie, you know, just partner up with us, learn how to use Narcan. Hope you never have to use it, but it is something that I think is necessary to have. And it's, you know, it's always good to just have the tools and the information on how to do certain things. So please, if you are somebody or organization, if you know an organization that's interested, do not be afraid. Reach out, send an email to the Narcan mailbox. Somebody will get reach out to you and we will get everything situated for you. Thank you.
Alrighty, Amos, thank you. Thank you so much. Amos is also going to be kind enough to also helping us out with our Narcan certification training for the point in time count, like we mentioned earlier. The last training that we're offering is tomorrow from 3 to 4. So if you are interested and you have not already emailed me about signing up to attend that, please let me know. If you are volunteering for the pit, go ahead and if you'd like to attend, just send me an email and Amos will be hearing a lot more from him tomorrow too about a lot of this information. But does anybody have any questions for him? Again, his contact information is included here. We'll make sure this is all sent out. But if anybody has any quick questions, before we kind of start to wrap everything up.
Oh, one more thing. If nobody has a question, I forgot. So if when we partner with agencies, yes, we do provide the kits. We also we give organizations the options if they want to have the testing strips inside of not, but we do provide the kits for partners who are trained to do the trainings. And yeah.
So again, if anybody's interested in like partnering with you for like a formal distribution on like an ongoing basis, again, for the Narcan kits or any of the testing strips, they can reach out to you guys as well. So any shelters or day centers or service providers that are interested. Make sure we get. Oh, we did have a good question. We had a question in the chat. Can the training be provided to youth also, 16 and 17-year-olds?
Yes, we do provide trainings to 16. That's the cutoff. If there's anything below that, we do require that, parental, advisor is parental guidance is there. But yeah, so we provide it for any and everybody. If you know anybody, just call them up, let them know.
Thank you. That was actually from Stacy. She does a lot of the youth work too. So thank you again so much, Amos. You've been super helpful, and I will be bothering you again and seeing you tomorrow too for our last certification training. But we are going to go ahead and move on. This is just an opportunity too. If anybody here has any upcoming events, announcements that they're doing with their agency and they would like to share too, I'm going to go ahead and actually stop my screen share just for a moment here as well. Anybody, please feel free to go off mute, put it in the chat. But if there's any community events that your agency is doing, any new initiatives that you would kind of like to get the word out about and share, please go ahead and feel free. Use this as your platform.
Hi, good morning. It's Laura Gendreau. I would just like to share that tomorrow we are actually hosting a virtual town hall on trafficking. And I will include the flyer on that in the chat. So it is virtual and I invite everybody to participate. We are having it in collaboration with the Delaware Anti-Trafficking Action Council and the new executive director, Sarah Poor. We will be having representatives from the Delaware State Police as well as Zoe's Ministries, Salvation Army, and Meet Me at the Well. So it is an opportunity to get a better idea of what trafficking is and how it is impacting our fellow Delawareans. So I do hope that you will be able to join us. There is a registration and a link. So far, we have over 100 individuals who will be attending. This is going to be the first of a series of educational opportunities that we're going to be doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity to share. And as soon as I get that document, I will put it into the chat.
Perfect. And again, feel free to also send it to me in an email as well if there's any ongoing events for that too, and we can make sure to include that in the materials when we send out as well too for anything.
Will do. Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share about any upcoming events or initiatives that their agency is doing or they know of going on? All right. Well, we are actually done a little bit ahead of time too. The only other thing I would have to share, I can pull up my screen again one last time for this. We do have our committee meetings coming up in March, so I have to double check. It's March 13th and March 20th. Our committees will be meeting. So if you're interested in attending our Advocacy and Policy Committee, our System Solutions Committee, or our Racial Justice and Equity Committee, feel free to reach out to me to make sure you're added to our email list and make sure you receive all those upcoming events and announcements. And then we also do have our next April quarterly. Our next CoC membership meeting will be on April 17th. Same time and format as today from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you are interested in, again, those have to join via Zoom. We'll be sending out a lot more communications as we move closer to, but if you're interested or if you have any information that your agency would like to share at any of our upcoming meetings as well too, please just reach out to me. I'd love to speak with you a little bit more about that and see if we could fit you in at any of our membership meetings too, and what that would look like. But if nobody else has any questions, oh, I just see you put the flyer in the chat, Laura. Thank you so much too.
My pleasure.
But yep, that is all that we have for today. Thank you again so much for everybody for attending. Please feel free to hang on if you have any questions, or again, if there's any announcements or updates you'd like to share. But again, also to be respectful of everybody's time, we will officially call it now if anybody does need to hop off or has any other engagements they have to do today. But again, thank you everyone so much for attending. Please feel free to reach out with me if you have any questions, and we will be making